Okay, we're about to dive into one of the most terrifying thought experiments you can possibly imagine. We're talking about a world where, for just 10 seconds, a fundamental piece of our reality just disappears. And trust me, the consequences are way, way beyond anything you'd guess.
Now, this isn't just about oxygen levels getting a bit low. I want you to imagine every single molecule of oxygen on the entire planet just poof, gone, vanished completely for 10 solid seconds. What happens next?
10 seconds. You can hold your breath for longer than that, no problem, right? So it sounds kind of harmless, but here's the thing. In the time it takes you to maybe tie your shoes, our entire planet would transform into a disaster zone on a scale we can barely even wrap our heads around.
So, look at this. That little 21% slice of our atmosphere, that's oxygen. And yeah, obviously we breathe it, but that is just the tip of the iceberg. That 21% is like a fundamental pillar holding up our buildings, our water, our very world. You take that away and everything, and I mean everything, falls apart. The chaos wouldn't be gradual. Oh no, it would be instantaneous. The first few seconds of this whole thing would unleash a wave of pure atmospheric shock across the entire globe.
All right, so here's our countdown clock. As you can see, we're going to walk through this whole 10-second nightmare. Let's start with seconds 1 through 3. I'm telling you, before you could even process what's happening, the basic laws of physics all around you would have already changed. Instantly, like in a split second, the air pressure just plummets by 21%. It would feel like you were suddenly teleported to the top of a massive mountain. Your inner ear would literally explode. But honestly, that's probably the least of your worries.
Think about this for a second. Without oxygen, there's no combustion. It's impossible. So instantly, every single plane in the sky becomes nothing more than a very heavy glider. Every car, every truck, every bus stalls. At the exact same moment, the entire world's transportation network just fails in a single instant.
So you'd feel this horrible burning sensation all over your body. But it's not from heat or from a fire. It's because that 21% of the atmosphere that was protecting you is suddenly gone. It's the same thing that happens to a deep-sea fish if you pull it to the surface too fast. A violent, damaging decompression that our bodies are just not built for.
So as all that atmospheric chaos is raging, the very ground under our feet starts to betray us. The solid world that we know and trust, well, it just starts to disintegrate.
Okay, we're now at the 6-second mark, just over halfway through this nightmare scenario. And this is where the world's infrastructure completely ceases to exist.
And I'm not talking about crumbling. I mean that every single dam, every bridge, every skyscraper, every house built with concrete would violently disintegrate into a cloud of fine dust. Poof, gone.
The science here is actually fascinatingly terrifying. It turns out oxygen is a critical binding agent in concrete. You could almost think of it as the chemical glue that holds it all together. Without that oxygen, concrete loses all its structural integrity and just reverts back to being dust. Our cities would literally vanish into thin air.
And what about the oceans? Well, water is H2O. Take away the O, and what's left? You're left with H2, pure gaseous hydrogen. All the oceans, all the lakes, all the rivers, they would instantly vaporize into a massive, expanding cloud of super flammable gas.
At the same time, every single fire on the entire planet would be extinguished. Campfires, forest fires, industrial furnaces, you name it, they all need oxygen to burn. Without it, the chemical reaction of fire is impossible. Every flame just dies.
So now, we've got a silent, dark planet of collapsing dust and vaporizing oceans. But the cataclysm isn't done. Now it turns from the world around us to the world inside us. As we get into the final few seconds of our countdown, the destruction turns inward. It starts striking at the one thing we haven't really talked about yet, life itself.
We're here. Seconds 8, 9, and 10. The final moments. This is what happens to every single oxygen-breathing creature on Earth, all at once.
The shutdown is, maybe mercifully, very quick. In fact, by the time the concrete was turning to dust back at the 6-second mark, you would have already lost consciousness. Your lungs don't even have time to feel that panic of suffocation. You and every animal around you would just silently collapse.
And if you were somehow still conscious and you looked up, you'd see the sky turn from blue to black. You see, the blue we see every day is sunlight scattering off particles in the atmosphere. And oxygen is a huge part of that. Without it, there are far fewer particles to scatter the light, and our sky would look dark,
alien, and empty. And with all the engines dead, all the buildings crumbled, and all the animals unconscious, an absolute profound silence would just fall over the entire planet. The constant hum of civilization and nature, it would just stop.
And then, 10 seconds are up. Just as suddenly as it vanished, all the oxygen snaps back into existence. But this is not a moment of relief. It's the beginning of a second, and maybe even more violent, cataclysm. That instant return of 21% of our atmosphere creates a massive pressure shockwave that rips across the globe. And remember those huge clouds of hydrogen gas that used to be our oceans? Well, they now have plenty of oxygen to react with, igniting in a planet-wide firestorm. Everyone and everything would gasp awake, not to relief, but to a world of absolute burning chaos.
Can you just imagine being one of the survivors? You'd awaken in the middle of the smoldering ruins of civilization, taking your first breath in a world that was just reborn through fire. You would be alive, sure, but you would have just witnessed the single most destructive 10 seconds in the history of our planet.
So, 10 seconds was a near-total apocalypse. Now think about this. What if it wasn't 10 seconds? What if it lasted for a full minute? What would even be left? Could anything survive? That's a thought that might keep you up at night.
Give a like if you enjoyed this video, and comment down below what topic you want us to cover next. Make sure to subscribe for more mind-blowing videos like this one.